Welcome to Rehash, a Web3 podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Rehash, a Web3 podcast. I'm your host, Diana Chen, and today we are talking all about Web3 video, the creator economy, on-chain storage, and a lot more with Dayo Adeosun, co-founder of Glass Protocol. Welcome, Dayo. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thank you, Diana. I'm super hyped to be here.
So before we dive into all things Glass, I'd love for the listeners to get to know a little bit more about your background. And normally I don't ask our guests for their full life story, but you actually have quite an interesting one. So I'd love to know what your background is, how you kind of grew up all over the place, and how you came to learn about crypto and Web3.
Thank you. So I call myself like a digital nomad because I've just been moving my whole life. But where I started off was 1998, south side of Chicago. I was born, and I was born in like this little cul-de-sac. And at that time, my mom was actually Michelle Obama's boss at the University of Chicago. And so my mom was kind of in the university, element. And my dad was kind of doing financial services with like MacArthur Foundation. I actually got invited to Malia Obama's first 5 birthday parties, and we made it in back at that time. And then around 6 years old, my dad, got a job around Albany, New York, at RPI. It's actually kind of Rensselaer area. I think like the first person who made the first NFT actually was around. I think he went to RPI as well. But my dad was kind of just doing investments over there. This is around Google time, around the time when, Kodak was just shutting down around that area. And I was there for about 6 years, and then like one day I was playing like football in the basement, and like I used to just run back and forth in the basement playing soccer, whatever sport it was. My mom goes like, "You're going to Nigeria," and so they shipped me to Nigeria at like 12 years old, and I went to British International School where I was like the only American in the entire like boarding school. And it was a bunch of like British kids, Nigerian kids, and that's when like I just really had to adapt. Like adapting was just a way of life for me at that point. And that's when I started playing soccer a lot more and just learning more about just like culture, education, a bunch of just different topics. And then around 14, I came back to New York, but this time my dad had just started a startup in New York City. And so we left from Albany to New York City. And in New York City, I went to school in Brooklyn. And that's when like New York City started to raise me. And I became, a New York City high school student. And I just played soccer with so many people from Bronx to Queens to Brooklyn, like all throughout New York City. And then I also had friends in Midtown. I was like one of the only people in like Hell's Kitchen area. And so I was like a young 15 to 18-year-old with the fake ID, all that stuff in Hell's Kitchen. And I was a nuisance. And I got into a lot of trouble in high school, but I had so much fun. I played sports. And then I cared a lot about like computer science. And like that's when I took my first APCS course. That's when I first like started dabbling more and more into just like technology, code, techniques, ways of doing things, and just design. Like I kind of just consider technology just ways of doing things, and technology and fashion are pretty much the same industry to me. And so because I've been seeing so many different fashions and technologies throughout my life, I have that exposure that allows me to see different ways that certain technologies might be adapted within certain communities and ways that certain technologies would not be adapted. And that kind of led to eventually Glass, really, because we did a startup. So I went to University of Chicago for university for about 4 years. 3 years I played on the soccer team. We literally like won every single year, but we lost in the Final Four 2 years back to back. And I learned something about teams. Like I learned something about culture. You can have a team that wins the division, but to have a team that wins the national championship, like and wins, and doesn't come fourth, doesn't come third, but comes first, it really takes the chemistry of that team and the leadership of that team to go from I'm great and we're great to just like there's limitless possibilities with this team, because anyone at any given time, it has a decentralized ecosystem of just talent that can come from your right back, your left back, any position. So like kind of like Albert Camus, soccer actually taught me everything I really needed to know about life. And I use that understanding of life combined with, learning about technology, learning about AR. And so our first company that me, Vern, and Sam started it was like a personal map, kind of like Waze, but for people. And we were those crazy college students who did this typical college idea for like 3 years. Like we were like, no, like we kept dropping it to the same friends. I kept going to the sororities, kept going to the fraternities, kept dropping it. And they're like, why does that just keep pushing this app that's not even really functional like that? And me, Vern, and Sam were just getting, we were just getting good. Like we just took 2 to 3 years to get good, sold to the University of Chicago, had about 50,000 students using it in total in those total 3 years, from like U Chicago, NYU to Grand Canyon University. And so we figured out how to build a community around the product. We figured out how to build a product, but we weren't making any money. And that was the biggest issue, like of everything, just the money not being enough part. And we realized that we weren't even doing a disruptive business model. And so we kept looking into Clayton Christensen. We kept looking into like what is really disruptive. Like Reid Hoffman used to say, it's the business model that is the change and shift. It's not the technology. It's the actual way that someone makes money. Like this podcast, right? It's a new business model, dropping this podcast on Glass versus dropping it on YouTube. And that's what's going to allow for even crazier podcast creators in the future to be like, oh, well, now it's directly the connection between me and my community instead of, this intermediary who's throwing in ads, or throwing in ads when I don't say throw in ads, or feeling disconnected to an entire community of podcasters. It's like there's so many podcast collaborations in the same way these TikTokers are pulling up to LA to do TikTok collabs. There should be a podcast city of just podcasters collabing. And so these are some of the ideas, we see that were coming with the map idea, where it was like, how can you find your people and find your places? But we didn't have money in there. And now with the new business model, it's like video actually is becoming the most important medium for disseminating information to the world, right? Like it used to be the printed word was the big thing, and that was the Gutenberg revolution. We don't even have a name for the current revolution we're in, that podcasters, musicians, everyone's in, because it's audio visual. It's the audio video revolution. That's what it is. That is as big as the Gutenberg revolution. And the Gutenberg revolution was like the 1450s. And so it's like we're now experiencing why the next 500 years are going to be different. And it's because of Zoom. It's because of video NFTs like Glass. It's because of live streams. Our first experience with Glass was a live stream with me, Vern, and Sam. We were literally like fucking around. Like, I mean, like, like doing some things I don't even know if I could put on the podcast right now. But we were literally on the live stream and we were just chilling, and we had 50 of our friends, out of those 50, 15 collected editions, we made $10,000 in, 20 minutes. That's $4,000 that we made in the last 3 years, working on a map application. And so we realized live streams might be the best way to monetize on the internet ever, right? And we already knew that was happening in China. Like we had seen People's Republic of Desire. We had read the TikTok book. We were not uninformed, right? We knew what was happening, and we knew we wanted to change the world, starting with the back end and the blockchain and the business model and the community. If you can get those three things right, the business model, the back end, and the community, you can layer on a front end. It doesn't have to be the most beautiful front end, although we pride ourselves in beautiful front ends and beautiful products. That's not what matters. What matters is the back end and the business model in the community. And if you can figure out how to sustain that, it just gets stronger over time, as you see with TikTok. Like, it has a strong back end. I wouldn't say it has a business model, but it definitely has a strong back end, and the community's strong. And so now I think we're seeing the first time ever a very strong back end, a very strong business model, and a strong community around video. And I think podcasters are going to lead the way. Like, I think because they go in between both. You know, you can be a music creator and you can be an educational, educator. And that's what people want. They want the entertainment and the information. They want information and inspiration. And podcasters bring that. Figuring out how to bring that in, like, snippets that catch people's attention span, those are problems we deal with too. Like, how does short form, 1 minute podcast clips monetize versus hour long podcast? It's like, it's way harder to monetize an hour long, clip, because it's like, what, like, maybe you just didn't even watch it. Maybe you're just supporting the creator. You didn't even watch it. You're just like, hey, I just bought this. I haven't even watched the full thing yet. And so that time thing does play a part, but regardless of any NFT being sold, you're buying into the creator behind it.
I want to get into all of that, but there's like so many things I want to get into from what you've just said that I want to take a pause and sort of take a step back and set the stage a little bit. So for people who are newer to Web3 and maybe don't understand at a core, like, how is Glass different from YouTube? Like, let's just back up all the way and talk about some of the problems that musicians or podcasters or other creators face in the Web 2 world when they're trying to create all of this content and monetize that content. What are some of the problems they face there, and how does, Web 3 video, Web 3 content sort of address some of these problems and solve for some of these problems?
Great. So the first thing is 3% of YouTubers make more than $12,000 a year. That means that 97% of YouTubers are living underneath the poverty line, right? That means that 97% of people that you see in the world making videos right now do not make enough money to afford rent in Manhattan. And so we realized there was a huge problem. If over 75% of the people 6 to 17 want to be YouTube creators, but 97% of those people are not going to make more than, $12,000 a year, they're not going to be able to sustain a living. We knew that it was unsustainable, the desire, the demand to make videos, but actually being able to financially sustain that, to have the business model to sustain that, we realized it wasn't there. And what Glass enables is, it enables you to care less about how many views you get and more about who is watching your content and who is willing to pay for your content, right? And so now it creates a more one-to-one relationship between the creator and the viewer, that now the quality of the content, the quality of the relationship improves, because that person there is collecting they're actually, they can collect that moment of information that you share. They could buy something from you. They could collect it and get access to a long-term relationship with you. And what you buy is who you are more than what you say is. And now, if people have a way to buy into artists they believe in, buy into ideas like the Rehash podcast, we believe in Rehash. We believe that Web3 information led by women, led by community creation, community voting, like that, the people want to see this. We need more of this. We need more of that representation. And so you can now buy into what you want to see more of in the world. And that's really one of the biggest things that Web3 does. But long story short, instead of only 3% of creators making more than $12,000 on Glass, we've been able to do that for over 20 creators. And we've done 80 creators. So we've only, done 80 creators. So we're just getting started, averaging anywhere between $1,000 to $45,000 on one video NFT for a creator. We've sold podcasts, we've sold educational videos, we've sold gaming, sports, and NBA Top Shot itself is just one category of video NFTs. So I'm very excited for the new categories that are coming up, like podcasting, and it's really up to the leaders of those categories to really make those markets as big as they want to.
Okay, so explain how that would work for like just let's just take one creator for an example, somebody who's made a good chunk of money on Glass. When this person makes a video, instead of uploading it to YouTube, they would upload it to Glass, and then what happens next? Like walk us through the process.
So creator wants to upload a video, right? They can upload it to YouTube and Glass, right? It's very fine. We actually like that just because the more people that see that file, the more valuable it is to people, kind of like the Mona Lisa. And so they upload it to Glass, probably a week before they upload it to YouTube, right? And they DM their collectors, creators, community members, hey, I got this new drop. It's going to be monetizable in Glass. And I'm also talking about some awesome information that you might want to check out. And then they send that out to the community. Community comes for the date of the drop. Then boom, the community, buys, apes in. We like to think about more accessible pricing for your community so that you can get to like 1,000, true fans that bought your podcast for $100 and you make 100K on a podcast. And so after people buy that primary sale, then some people might buy it on secondaries, right? Some people might say, hey, like, I really want that podcast, but I wasn't there, when they did the primary sale drop and I wasn't able to get one, or I didn't have enough ETH or whatever, Solana. And then someone else would go and buy it on secondaries. And so we always say there's a pre-drop, there's a during drop, and there's a post-drop. And the pre-drop you would do with Twitter Spaces, then you would go to the Glass platform and sell out. Then you would go to like Twitter, other social media, and talk about what just happened and let people know what's going on. And that would really continue as long as like that content is, I guess, is relevant to the creator or to whatever. So it really is content dependent and creator dependent how long term that that piece is I guess valuable to that creator or even that collector. And creators are the founders of the crypto creator economy. Like music video NFTs, creators are really the pioneers of it. They're kind of like the runners to Nike. But I think podcasters are kind of like, the rowers or whatever Nike did after running. Podcasting is kind of like that thing. And so the video NFT goes as far as the creator wants it to go, and it can connect with whoever the creator wants it to connect with. It's just a very direct approach of distribution rather than like a spray and see what happens.
Got it. Okay, so in terms of like more of the technical components, are these NFTs sold as one of ones or as additions, or does the creator have the option of that? And then I'm also wondering too, in terms of like the actual storage, because most NFTs that we see nowadays are actually not stored fully on chain. I've talked about this on past podcasts, but I'm not sure if people know this. Most NFTs are just the transaction hash is stored on chain, and then the actual file of the image, for instance, if it's an art NFT, is stored off chain somewhere, like on an AWS or something. I'm curious, how does Glass store the video NFTs that are uploaded to its platform?
Yeah, so we use a hybrid approach, where we'll use Arweave and, as well as, centralized servers, like Google Cloud or something like that, just to ensure the quality if, Arweave is ever lacking. But one thing we care about is the user should own their relationship to the content and to the community that wants that content. Glass should not have any way to like say like Glass went down tomorrow, you should still be able to view that video from Arweave or something like that. And so we use Arweave for storage because we think to the ethos of community ownership, community creation, community growth, that trust matters a lot, and having ownership of that file, that if anything were to happen to Glass, you know that your file, you still have that ownership. You still have the relationships that you were able to make off of that file.
And then what about the like editions part? Do creators have the option of releasing a one-on-one or editions, and then can they set their own prices, or is something built into the platform for like a starting price?
So at Glass, we've gone through so much evolution from the first live stream in August that like I can't really say anything in final on whether or not it's just one-on-ones or just editions. What I can say is that we've tried one-on-one auctions, we've tried limited editions, we pioneered liquid editions, Prism, where you could buy an NFT almost like an AMM for NFTs and liquidate it and get the cash out. All we can say is we've tried all of these, and right now with where Web3 is at, we think limited editions is probably the best thing in the short term, and making sure that the supply of the limited editions that you offer on your initial drop is lower. The supply is low to create more scarcity for that video NFT. We see with Top Shot, they're offering like 2,000 editions at $7. We love that price point, but the number of editions is a very high for us, where it's like 2,000, that might be a lot. So it's like we think maybe increasing the price point and decreasing the supply. Regardless, I think the goal is 1,000 editions sold at $100. Like that is a goal that we think we can help creators get to. And there's two things that Glass does. We help you sell your video NFT, whatever category it is, and we'll help you hype it and help you figure out an audience that, may want to collect it. And so those are the two things: help you sell, help you hype. And it requires a really good tool. The video process, the quality has to be really good. But we've seen, it's hard for a creator to know what they want to monetize at. Like, it's like, we came in, you're seeing the 1/8 on catalog, right? Then you saw the addition. Some people saw the Nifty Gateway, blouse sales. It's like economics does happen, incentives does come to every industry, and the prices are going to go down. But the thing that is going to go up is the amount of people in the Web3 ecosystem, right? And so that's what we need, because it's like you actually want more people who are like, oh, this is awesome. And you actually want more people who appreciate it, rather than just a small bubble of like 1,000 to 2,000, music NFT creators, where it's like, it's not really affecting the outside world. We're here to grow or die. We're here to scale and grow at an engineered rate, where people are bringing in like their core friend group, and then after the core friend group collects an NFT, some of them are going to say, I don't care. Some of them are going to say, I care. And then we want them to bring in the next group. And so it's just like that slow growth stage, that 2004, 2006 stage that Facebook was in, that's where we are. We're in that '05 YouTube stage, where it's like we need to just get more people to believe in decentralized video, more people to believe in video NFTs, and showing as many ways as possible that your skill could be represented, and not caring too much about the monetization, because it will come. But the monetization comes with community. So it's creation, community, compensation. And if your creation's good and your community's strong, compensation will handle itself, right? But you really want to make sure that the community is growing strong and the creation is strong as well.
Yeah, I think like theoretically, it's not too hard to get creators on board with decentralized media. I think it's conceptually like it makes sense to anyone who's been a creator. But I think the hard part, and like the reason why people still use YouTube and why musicians still go on Spotify just to earn pennies on their music, is because those are the big platforms that everybody knows, and that's how they get distribution, is through those big platforms that everybody knows about and that everybody uses. And I think that's sort of trade-off, at least from the people that I've talked to who are creators. Like, that's the trade-off I've heard them express the most. So I'm curious, can you go into more detail about how Glass helps with distribution and helps get the content that's on Glass seen by more people? Of course, creators should be bringing in their own communities and bringing in their own fans, but is there anything that Glass does on top of that to help the content on Glass get seen by more people?
Yeah, so with Glass, we have like a marketing checklist that we like give to all of our creators now, and we also have a community on Twitter of just like around 11K followers, and Sam has a good following, my following's growing, Instagram following is approaching 3 4K, and then we haven't even started the TikTok yet, and so I think when it comes to distribution we like to focus on let's make sure we have the Web3 community aligned because it's a small community. And then let's also, make sure that we're bringing each person in one by one. Like we have a very one-to-one philosophy for distribution just because it's like video NFTs are relatively new to most people that it's like they'll just need like at least a conversation about like okay like how does it really work like okay I have a video file, what file size do you guys take, mp4s .movs, and we'll run our creator through everything that we accept, how it goes. The upload process is just like YouTube's upload. All you do is add in the monetization and you choose what the monetization style, whether it's auctions, limited editions, liquid editions, and then you set a countdown timer waiting for the drop. Boom, set a countdown timer, and then Glass comes in and we're like, hey, we'll do a Twitter Spaces with you, and we'll do a Twitter Spaces getting like 50 to like 100 people in the spaces, and it'll be mainly creators, some collectors, just pretty much just talking about what was the process behind this creation, why are you in Web3, what were you feeling in Web 2? And typically creators are going to say Web 2 felt unsustainable, disconnected to other creators, unsustainable in terms of money. You felt like a slave, indentured servant, almost robotic. At any given time, you could get rug pulled, in Web 2. At any given time, they're gonna help you build an audience and then throw ads in and make you pay to reach that audience. And so we knew the business models were just not those were the biggest problem with Web 2, the business model. And so with that, we like to educate people in those Twitter spaces with the creators on like what are the problems we're facing, how do we actually get over this, what is a disruptive innovation versus a sustaining innovation, or efficiency innovation, and how does this actually happen? And what's happening is it's like there's a whole new medium of new stars on Glass right now. It's like some of those creators on Glass, like Drake is in their DMs right now asking for beats, and it's like, it's like 27 Deli is Ferg's little brother. Like Salem Marley is Lauryn Hill's daughter. Right. So it's like it's not like the creators on Glass aren't gonna be the biggest stars in the next 2 to 3 years. They actually are, and they're currently like doing all the awesome things that are behind the scenes that, before you get up like the, Balenciaga show at the New York Stock Exchange. But I think the big thing is like bringing the creators in, making sure that the Glass communities and the Twitter spaces, the creator communities and the Twitter spaces, connecting people in the Discord, and then just always, having a couple templates files that creators can send out to potential collectors. That starts with, connect your MetaMask wallet, have this amount of money to buy the NFT. This is how you buy it. We're going to get all into that educational stuff. I mean, we do video NFTs, so it's like expect a lot of video education from us coming. But how blockchain is going to succeed is like, Glass kind of is like, like you have the blockchain, which is like ETH. Then you have, ETH or Solana, right? Right now, I'm pretty bullish on Solana, just because it's like a hardware background team and the price is low right now. And the gas fees are very cheap, for creating and collecting. And the community is pretty strong and they're growing rapidly. And a lot of the people that I know that are interested in crypto, they're also interested in Solana, and their developers are very talented, like really, really good. And so ETH, Solana, it's like, okay, what do you choose as a platform, right? Platform like Glass, we're going to choose ETH and Solana, right? Then after we choose ETH and Solana, then it's like, creators, what are they going to choose? What platform are they going to choose, right? They're going to choose the platform, and they're going to get the coin that the platform uses that does their job the best, right? The job to be done for video creators is to sell video NFTs and to make them hype and to distribute them, right? YouTube does 1,000 views, $2, a million views, $200. TikTok does 1,000 views, 50 cents. The more users that get on TikTok, the less money you make, right? And so we always said, let's 10x to 100x this video compared to YouTube and TikTok. And we've been doing that consistently. We average 500x on that, right? And so that's the first thing that creators want. It's like, help me make money on this video. And it's like, you could easily sell this video to one person and you'll probably 100x what you did on YouTube, right? And so that's the first thing. Win on monetization, because all TikTokers make YouTubes because of monetization. And so why wouldn't they make a Glass if it monetizes better? So it's like, that's the basic obvious point, that like you're using Glass for monetization and community, not distribution. Over time, I do think once we build out this new product that I'd love to show you guys that we have coming in the month of June, the salon design that's going to totally change the total trajectory this summer. Once we build that, I think people are going to start to see like what we really mean. We're creating the first video market network in Web3. That's a marketplace, social network, SaaS tool, all in one, right? It's like, you want that data. We want it too, and so it's really all about creating that tool that any video creator could use to run their business.
Yeah, I think that's super cool. And the way I hear it is like your distribution strategy is almost like very tethered in community, but in a different way, in a way where you care more about quality over quantity of your community. And I think that's very reminiscent of the Web3 space in general. I almost think, that in Web3, that distribution is a little less important than in Web2. And that's the whole, 1,000 true fans that you've alluded to, or even I think, Legion's interpretation of that 100 true fans, scaling that down even more. So it really is about quality over quantity. And I think it's pretty clear hearing you talk about it that that's something that Glass has done really well. And that comes really from your childhood, like playing soccer for your whole life, and what you've learned about community building from being on a team and playing on a team for so long. I would love to hear your thoughts on what are some of your best community building strategies? Maybe like what you think people do really well, what you think people are missing and that they should be doing, or even some things that you think people are doing wrong and that are, being more detrimental than helpful.
Yeah, so I'll start with like what I think people are doing right, which is just like people are reaching out, like people are being braver. Like the one thing is like you cannot be scared. Like scared money does not make any money. I like what Rehash did by just running a whole contest. Like I don't even know what it fully was, but I was interested and now I'm here. And so it's like that's a great sign of community, almost just enforcing connection. Like that works all the time. Like when my mom used to force me to like do swimming lessons or force me to do all the types of things she used to force me to do, I always look back and I'm like, thank you for forcing me to learn French at like 7 years old and like forcing me to do these things, because now I'm a way better human being. And so kind of like not forcing people to do things, but like pushing activities on to people that is going to be beneficial for them. You have to do that as a community member. So like nudging, like getting good at nudging, crucial skill. Then I would say figuring out the cadence, having the tool, like you want to have a note that's like, oh, you have your Calendly set up, you have, the time off, you have your boundaries, you have your values, like those, like some people have been doing that, some people haven't, but like I would say get your Calendly set up, get your values set up, get your list of people who you really think can help you leverage wherever you're trying to go to the next location, and then just execute on that list and hold your values. Like every single conversation you come in, you should know what you actually value in that convo. Like at Glass, we value championing the mission, right? That's community owned, community created, community grown video market network, allowing transparent monetization for billions of video creators and video viewers. And we're going to start with creators collecting from creators because that's what started, that's where it all started from. Creators were collecting from creators. And then eventually the fans of those creators started looking at where the creators were collecting and started collecting from the creators that the creators were collecting from. And so there's 37 million YouTubers with YouTube channels. There's 2 billion YouTube users. If you're in Web3 right now, you need to be the people with the channels. You need to be the people that the people are coming to YouTube to see. You need to be the people that are interacting, going out, establishing those relationships, doing co-hosted spaces, all the alphas in the spaces. Like either like the spaces do matter. Like people do have a lot of good content in the spaces. Of course, a lot of it misses, but the few spaces that hit, they hit very hard and you make lifelong relationships just like that. That's why Clubhouse, did it, because it was making lifelong relationships. And so I would just say set your values, have your Calendly set up, and just know who you want to connect with and do that research. Read Token Economy. Spend that one day just reading and educating yourself on the ecosystem, and then find that core group of people and build with them.
I love that. And then the last thing is something else that you talked about in the beginning of this is having that business model that works, right? And that's something that you learned from your past businesses and just overall experience. I'm curious, what is Glass's business model? How does Glass make money?
It's a great question. I thought you weren't supposed to ask. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So how does Glass make money? So how we started was we were like taking like 10% on the primary sales on ETH. But where we're gonna go is taking 0% on primary sales and taking 2% on secondary sales and becoming the first secondary video NFT marketplace. So kind of like you could say like OpenSea just for video NFTs. Like, yeah, that's what we're gonna do, I guess. But the experience is gonna be like YouTube meets StockX. Yeah, I mean, we make money in the future off of secondaries. In the past, we made it off of primaries. We're also thinking of other ideas like collect to create, where if you want to be a creator, you have to collect something first, and then you can create, and that just like helps you give to the community before I guess you take. Yeah, so we're trying we have a lot of like interesting things just around viewing. Like we said, the mission is community rapidly create a world-class community owned, community created, community grown video market network that creates transparent monetization for billions of video creators and viewers. And so just keep that in mind because that's where we're gonna really be focusing on how to create income for creators and viewers. So yeah, I think the 2 billion viewers on YouTube, they're also going to make more money on Glass. And we're going to focus on the creators first, and creators supporting creators. And I think eventually people are going to follow where their favorite creators are.
I love that. Well, Dayo, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and talk to us. I know you've got to head out. Last thing we do on every podcast episode is we play a quick little game to sort of just loosen it up. We've been talking about very serious things. So I've got a game for you. It's called This or That. I'm going to give you 2 words, A or B, and then you just tell me which one you prefer. There's no explanation needed. We'll just do a lightning round and blow through this. So I've got 10 pairs of words for you, and we'll just blow through this super quick. All right. Okay. First one, Bitcoin or Ethereum?
Ethereum.
Crypto or Web3?
Crypto.
DAOs or NFTs?
NFTs.
Bear market or bull market?
It's hard. Bullish bear market.
I don't know. That's. I feel like that's cheating the game a bit, but okay, we'll accept it. We'll accept it. Next one: audio or video?
Video.
Books or podcasts?
Books. I gotta go with books.
Books or videos?
Video books. Big fan of video books.
What is a video book?
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Okay. Next one: show or tell?
Show.
Creating or collecting?
So I believe every great creator is first a collector. So I'm gonna have to go with collecting.
Okay. And then last one: past or future?
Future.
All right. Okay. I feel like you kind of cheated the game a little bit a couple times in there, but it's clever. I like it. I'm still looking forward to finding out what a video book is. So please DM me when you've got your first
I
video
will.
book.
I have a video book that I already have on my mind right now. It's called How Buildings Learn. It's the first video book I ever watched, but that's a very interesting video book.
All right. Send that to me. I'm very curious to see it.
I will.
Interesting. Okay, so before you go, tell people where they can find you if they want to follow you, learn more from you, and then also where people can go to check out Glass. If somebody listening is a creator and wants to get their videos on Glass, how do they get started?
Yes, so you can find me at Dayo Adeosun 10. That's Dayo like Cinco de Mayo with the D, Cinco de Dayo, and DAYOADEOSUN 10 on, I think, Instagram and Twitter at DAYOADEOSUN 10. And then Glass Protocol at Glass Protocol on Twitter, and then at glass.xyz on Instagram, and hop into the Glass Discord, which you can find, through the Glass Twitter, and through the Glass website. If you want to just go check out some videos on Glass, go to glass.xyz and go check out the videos. We have an entirely new updated design coming next month, with gamification, a lot of cool things coming. And then if you want to create on Glass, just go to glass.xyz, click create, and fill out that type form, and we'll get back to you, or DM at Dayo Adeosun 10, or I think my username is like Dayo.glass, parentheses, 2 eyes. And yeah, that's where you'll find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And you can also find this episode on Glass once it's
Yes.
live and you're hearing this. So, and as well as all the other Rehash episodes in season 2. So go check that out as well. You can collect this episode if you enjoyed it. And, say you're one of the owners of this episode, which is pretty exciting. So thanks so much, Dayo. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And we will be back again very soon with another episode of Rehash.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Rehash, a Web3 podcast. The guest from this episode, Dayo Adeosun, was nominated by Tyler Internet and voted onto the podcast by Triumph, Andrew, Diana, Tyler Internet, and Ellie Dots. Some of the questions you heard were submitted by Carsten, Andy, and Tyler Internet. Rehash is hosted by Diana Chen, produced and edited by Ellie Dots and Tyler Internet, and as always, supported by Rehash DAO. To stay up to date on all things Rehash, you can follow us on Twitter at RehashWeb3 and join our Discord to get involved.